remind you today that every day gives you two choices. That's right, every single day. Now, a neat thing about today is you have only this day to live. There is no guarantee about tomorrow, and you really can't do anything about the past. So, what you need to do is live for today. Back in 1969, there was a group called the Grassroots, and they basically sang this song, Live for Today. Now, that is actually very, very true. And so today, you have and I have two choices. We need to see either the problems or the possibilities. The, the problem is that so many people get wrapped up in the problem they don't see the possibilities. Let me tell you what I did yesterday. My daughter, of course, has been, improving her house. And one of the people that helping are helping her improve her house is me. And yesterday, I knew that we were coming close to the end of the summer season. And also, as well, I have seen in the last few days that the leaves are starting to fall off the tree. Now, that, of course, happens where I live because in September, that's when, of course, the fall season starts. And we begin to see the trees shedding their leaves about this time of the year, right through until basically Thanksgiving, depending on the tree. Now, with the cooler weather coming, and also as well the fall season happening, and me having to go back to work, I knew that I had to finish a couple of projects. And these projects had to do with my daughter's house. So she has been asking me to paint her back ease area of her house. It's the back part of the house facing onto the alley. And it's the easiest one to, of course, fix. Now, earlier on this summer, we had that entire area, of course, redone because my daughter, because of all the rain, was getting water into her house. So we had it repaired, and we had left basically the back of the house, undone. That means it didn't have any grass. So yesterday I had two projects. One was to paint the back of the house, and number two, to put in grass seed. So that's exactly what I did. I got up yesterday morning. I could have said, I let's leave it another day, but I chose to get up, and in the morning I finished painting the back of the house, and then in the afternoon I put down grass seed, and then my daughter was able to, of course, water the back of the grass. So we got those two things done yesterday. And at the end of the day, I said, that's pretty good. But then I had another project that I wanted to do in my basement. So I did that project in my basement. Those were three things that I wanted to accomplish yesterday. And there were some problems with each and every one of those particular tasks. One thing that you notice that when you start doing something, always something seems to come up, a problem. And so I didn't tackle those problems as something to get in the way. I saw them as possibilities for problem solving. It took me, basically 2 hours to paint that section of my daughter's house. I had to go up and down on the ladder several times, reshift the ladder, etc., etc. But we got the job done. And then, of course, to sow the grass, it took a while to sow the grass. Then I had to go buy some apparatus to be able to water the grass. And then, of course, yesterday evening, when I was cleaning my basement in a certain area, there were some, problems as well. But each one of those things I saw as a possibility and an obstacle, of course, to conquer. And that's what we need to recognize. We need to either see the problem or the possibilities, because every day we see, of course, and gives us two choices. You can complain. I mean, it's easy to complain, or you can choose gratitude. Any person can be a complainer. Any person can be a mocker. Any person can be a scorner. But when you choose gratitude, when you are thankful, even for the so-called bad things that happen in your life, it flips the entire mindset. And I am encouraging you to have the mindset of an overcomer. I'm encouraging you to have the mindset of an undefeated person, a person who looks at every problem as something to, overcome, and also as a possibility. It's a mindset. And that's the choice that you and I make every single day. We can live in fear or we can live in faith. Paul tells us that God has not given us a spirit of fear, but of love, power, and of a sound mind. It's easy to complain, especially when you are fearful. But when you choose gratitude, you know what happens? You start living by faith. You know that the only day that you have is this day. And so you're grateful for every single moment. I read today that, a moment is like a raging river. If you don't embrace it, very quickly it disappears. And so many times we miss the moment because we're walking in fear or we're complaining about what's happening instead of choosing gratitude and walking by faith. Being grateful for every breath that we take. I had a friend whose name is Bob. Bob, during the COVID-19 pandemic, caught COVID. Now, because he was an older man, of course, it hit him a lot harder. And he found himself in hospital on a respirator. And Bob, when he came out the other side, he said, every single breath I took, he says, I recognized how important it was to keep a positive attitude and be grateful that I could still breathe. When he came out the other side, he had a fierce determination to live his life to the absolute fullest. Why? Because he was on the brink of death. And he recognized that, yes, he could go into eternity or he could refocus his life and become a person of purpose. Bob became a person of purpose. And he is actively involved in so many different things, grateful for the opportunity. I had a friend whose name was Babu Thangapovular. Babu got Guillain-Barre syndrome. It was when I was living in the community of Trail, and Babu was a very good friend. When he came out the other side, he was a completely changed man. Why? Because he had gone right to the throes of death and was spared. And from that moment forward, he was fierce in his faith and he was fierce in helping other people because he knew that he had been given a gift. He had been given another opportunity at life. Maybe you're not at the throes of death, but understand that every day you have a choice to make. You can complain or you can be grateful. You can see problems or you can see possibilities. You can live in fear or you can live in faith. The difference between a heavy heart and a peaceful one is perspective. That's right, perspective and attitude. It just depends on how you see things. You can see all the problems, you can see all the complaints, you can see the fear, but or you can walk around with a heavy heart, or you can make a decision about your mindset and about your perspective. You see, gratitude and joy aren't just feelings, they are choices. Choices that you and I make when we are faced with a situation. It's a choice on whether we're going to love or we're not going to love. It's a choice about whether we're going to smile or not to smile. It's a choice on whether we're going to be kind or we're not going to be kind. You see, it's perspective, it's attitude, and it's mindset. And so that's why I'm encouraging you that day by day, you make these choices and make the right choices. Like I said, you can be negative or you can be positive. You can be optimistic or you don't have to be optimistic. But these are choices. And when you choose them, you know what? Your whole life begins to shift. It begins to change. You know, it was Paul who said simply this: we reap what we sow. Now, my son is a farmer, so he lives with that reality every single day. In the springtime, he sowed his crops, and then as we get closer, because we're only, in fact, right now, in some of our farmers are harvesting certain things that they have already planted. For example, my fellow grandfather, right now, he is harvesting peas because the time of the season is peas. There is another fella that we know who planted corn. So in about a month, he's going to, of course, reap his corn. I was talking with my fellow grandfather a couple of days ago, and we were talking about his canola crop. I was noticing that some of the local canola crops were still ripening, or I should say, still blooming. And so I asked him, I said, when are you actually going to, harvest your canola crop? Well, he says some of it, he says, I can do in about a month. But he says some of it, I'll have to wait till almost Thanksgiving. Canadian Thanksgiving is the second Sunday or Monday in October. And so he may not be, of course, harvesting some of his canola crop until that time of the year. I said, are you concerned? He says, oh no. He says, we'll get it off. You see, that's the perspective. The perspective of knowing that when you sow, you're going to reap. The perspective of making a decision that you're going to walk with gratitude and joy, that you're not going to allow a heavy heart, that you're going to see the possibilities, not the problems. You're not going to complain. You're going to choose the avenue of gratitude. You're going to have a peaceful heart instead of a heavy heart. That is the choice that you and I make every day. And remember, the only day that we have is this day. So, like the old grassroots song, I am going to live for today, and I am going to make a choice to, of course, see the possibilities. I am going to choose today to walk in gratitude. I'm going to live in faith. I am going to have not a heavy heart, but a peaceful one. I'm going to make gratitude and joy not just a feeling, but understanding there are choices. And because of that, your whole life shifts and you see things differently. And you know that you have a possibility and an opportunity to touch other people as well. That is my exhortation for you and I today. Well, if you like what you're hearing and seeing, I always encourage you to press the like button and subscribe to my YouTube channel. Also, as well, I want to thank all the people who have subscribed to my YouTube channel. You are the ones that motivate me to keep doing what I do and to take on the perspective that I take. You see, many times on social media, I'll see people ranting about this thing and complaining about that thing. You see, people feel today that they need to get their opinion out. And that's okay. If you want to rant, if you want to rave, if you want to complain, that's all right. But it also shows what's in your heart. So I choose positivity. I choose optimism. I choose possibility and gratitude and living by faith and having a peaceful heart. and understanding that joy and gratitude are not just feelings, they're choices. And when we choose these, our whole perspective, of course, begins to shift. That's why I love sharing on YouTube and the different platforms that I do. Also, as well, I want to encourage you to check out my daily YouTube shorts. Every day, I put a series of short messages, short videos, encouraging you in different aspects of life. They're usually under 1 minute long. They don't take very long, but maybe what I'm saying can help you and touch your life in a positive way. Well, my name is Robert Dean Steele. Thank you for joining me today. Have yourself a great and godly day.